Well, next we have the Neighborhood Food Network portion of our show and sorry, not our show, our call. And so thank you very much for being on the Moms Across America call with us tonight. And next we have Ryan Rising of the Permaculture Action Network that I just met this week. He's here locally, so I'm always happy to have local people on. And he told me that he's been running this organization called the Neighborhood I'm sorry, that's me. The Permaculture Action Network. I'm going to screen share, and that he knew of our Neighborhood Food Network, and I guess I've heard of this before. I just haven't, we just haven't connected and like talked about it. And the fact is that his organization has rallied 15,000 people across the country to an action days in connection with concerts, and I'm sure he'll tell us all about it. To take action and to plant food, organize, mobilize, catalyze. I just love that that whole theme and what you're doing. So welcome, Ryan. Thanks for coming on tonight.
Thanks, and yeah, it was great to meet you, and I'm glad to be on the call. And big gratitude to Anthony for everything that you're sharing. I think it's really important that we are taking a look at the whole of the industrial food production system so that we can learn how to transform it. And that's what our organization has been focusing on for the last 10 years. We work beyond the food system. I mean, we work entirely in ecological regeneration as a whole and how we can take a just transition to a more regenerative and liberatory way of living and organizing ourselves. And the way that we focus on that is through primarily days of action, where we're working with local concerts, shows, cultural events to mobilize people to local community days of action where they're building out regenerative food systems and regenerative community projects. So if you don't mind, actually, I'm happy to take over the screen share and just show a few
Sure.
things that
Let
I
me
have set up
stop
on
share.
this end.
Let me
Take
stop
your
share. I just
time.
want to show people that your Facebook page and
Thanks so much.
if you have some images of, if you want to go ahead and share some images
Yeah.
of action days, that'd be great.
Yeah, and if folks want, I'll say it now, if folks want to connect or look us up, our website that we were just seeing is permacultureaction.org.
Yeah, I put the link down there.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, we're on Facebook, Permaculture Action Network, Instagram at Permaculture Action. I'll put my email in at the end. And I'll take you for a little bit of a visual tour of what we do. I think maybe it's important as I'm starting this to just define the word for anyone who's unfamiliar with it. But when we talk about permaculture, we're not just talking about permanent agriculture, we're also talking about permanent culture as a whole. So culture is the way that we organize ourselves socially, the way that we produce food, medicine, building materials, the way that we create art and express ourselves. It's about creating a culture that can continue because it cycles energy back to where that energy comes from. So permaculture looks at the way that nature works. It looks at natural systems and it says, how can we design the ways that we produce all of these things that we need to live based on the relationships that we see happening in ecological systems? How can we become more mutually beneficial, organize ourselves into mutually beneficial relationships with the environment and with one another? How do we actually heal the damage that's already been done? That's the regenerative piece. How do we create life-affirming systems? And so we look at natural systems and design our systems for food, water, medicine, shelter, transportation, energy, et cetera, based on those. So that's great. I teach courses, I teach workshops about that. It's important to educate people, but we found it much, much more powerful to actually get people involved directly in the soil and in working with the earth and actually creating these systems in their own communities. And the way that we've approached that is by working with artists, primarily performing artists, and going to their shows and concerts, speaking on stage and having them speak on stage on our behalf, and inviting people to a day of action after that cultural event where people are coming out 200, 300, 400 people at a time to these local community days of action and actually building out entire regenerative farms, public food forests, community gardens, and other kinds of regenerative community centers. So we've done this in 65 cities throughout the United States and 26 different US states. We've supported over 100 grassroots projects and organizations. And through doing that, we've, planted over 700 fruit trees, dozens and dozens of gardens and urban farms, and built a plethora of structures, including tiny homes, greenhouses, rainwater catchment systems, earthen classrooms, emergency preparedness hubs, composting systems, everything that we would need to actually transition to a more regenerative and resilient way of life. This is an example of a natural built earthen classroom that we created in Bradley, California. This is with a 40,000 person music festival called Lightning in a Bottle, right? Tons of young people, 40,000 people are going to this music festival, and we're saying, hey, come out to a local elementary school and support us in building an earthen classroom for this local elementary school. We're going to use all cob, right? Clay, sand, straw, and water. And we're going to build an outdoor classroom made of all earthen materials. And people are learning through the process of how that happens. This is a picture from an action day we did in San Francisco's Bayview Hunters Point, which is one of the poorest neighborhoods in San Francisco. And this is, children building potting, seeding, and transplanting tables at a low-income housing residency in that community. There were 300 people at this day of action. And these aren't the people that are usually going to these kinds of things. These are people going to a concert. They saw their favorite band on stage say, come out tomorrow to this day of action. They're coming out, and we have all of the materials and tools ready to go ahead of time. We have skilled facilitators on site to lead people in these projects. We have free food, music, workshops throughout the day. Everything's free. And it's very participatory. Like, people don't come and we say, hey, here's your t-shirt and you're going to be volunteering with Tim. We say, here's all the different projects happening. Here's where the food is. Here's the music schedule. Here's the workshops. Engage however you want to. If that means having a 3-hour conversation with somebody you met that you find important to connect with, that's great. If you want to learn how to build drip irrigation systems from scratch and plant perennial vegetables, that's fine too. So these are some other action days: building cold frame greenhouses, creating medicinal garden beds. This one is from Segura Land Trust, which is an amazing model in the San Francisco Bay Area, the Ohlone Indigenous Women's Land Trust, which is rematriating land to the Ohlone people. This picture with the shovels, these are actually all shovels that were made from guns that were melted down with a group called Lead to Life. So with mothers whose kids were killed by police, we melted down like 50 guns and turned them into these shovels, and then used these shovels to plant trees and gardens at the Segura Land Trust. The Segura Land Trust accepts donations of land and puts it into a nonprofit land trust that Indigenous women run. This is a site where they were actually able to build the first ceremonial arbor that Ohlone people have had in the Bay Area in over 250 years. It's a really amazing story of how they actually got the land. I won't go into the details now, but it's like a very incredible model of how to actually transition land and resources back into the commons to kind of create this regenerative world that we are trying to bring about. So I'm going to take you through like a little 3-minute video just so you kind of get a feel for it. It'll be with this group that you're seeing on the screen now, Rising Appalachia. This just gives an idea of like how an artist takes the stage in a concert of 2,000 people, 3,000 people, and invites people out to one of these days of action. So I'm going to jump into that now, and then I'm going to continue from there. I just think it's helpful to get a bit of a like visual audio idea of what I'm talking about.
The first and only Permaculture Action Days on this tour is tomorrow. We're going to be in Paradise, California, in an area that was deeply hit by the fires. Please put your hands together for everyone who is doing that work here on the ground, for all of you who are doing that work.
I believe in being ready. I believe in being ready. I believe in being ready, for the time is drawing near.
So we are standing, this is the site of the first community garden here on Chapel Drive.
Before the campfire, it was incredibly lush. A lot of permaculture going on here. Community dinners, community potlucks, workshops, and open mic. It's just a really sweet little spot.
Oh, there'll be signs and wonders.
Permaculture Action Network was asked to organize a Permaculture Action Day with Campfire Restoration Project. We worked with Ecosystem Restoration Camp to find the host site. They connected us with the Paradise Community Guild. We followed their lead and got materials here and the people to get the jobs done.
We'll turn around and just start over. We'll turn around and just start over. For the time is drawing near.
What is happening here today is amazing. The fact that people would come from so far away to be part of this day and help, it's just been almost overwhelming.
For the time is drawing near.
When my sister said that they were planting stuff out here to help bring back life, I was like, I want to be there. I want to help break ground. I want to help do whatever is needed to help our community.
We're doing the work that needs to be done. We're doing the work of the generation.
You know, this is a sacred act. This is a powerful ritual.
The community is here doing this beautiful work, building each other and building together, and it's nice to see everyone just like shoveling the dirt around and getting the plants going. This is my first time experiencing it. It gives me some hope, trying to like patch up the scarred land. It's also a plus that we get Rising Appalachia.
We have to do this together, and if we don't do it, we will not survive. We must take traditional knowledge and what we have today to restore and sustain our ecosystems in our area.
Of course, this is about supporting Paradise and restoring the ecosystem, but it's also about getting everyone and anyone involved into these days of action.
One garden at a time, giving people a chance to get their hands in the dirt and to not be afraid of what happened this year. And it was pretty dramatic what went on, and I think those that can come and be active with it, it brings life back to Paradise and it brings life back to the people.
Create the world that you want to see, right? Like, this is it. This, for me, this is it.
Our hope as Permaculture Action Network is to get people invested and involved in this ecological regenerative movement.
This is the beginning. This is this small little beginning. And even though it feels big now, it's going to grow, and each one of us can be a part of this type of thing growing. So thank y'all for being part of this growing movement.
This is what we've been doing since like 2014. So we've done this, yeah, we've mobilized over 15,000 people in total to these days of action. And it's a really effective model. And it's also a decentralized model. Like, we do it through the organization that we've been running, and we do it really well. But this is a model that other people can mimic in their own areas. It doesn't have to be with artists that are selling out entire auditoriums. It can be with, you know, local concerts, local performing artists, or other kinds of cultural events. So it's a really useful model, especially towards getting young people directly involved and inspired in this kind of work. I think like the biggest benefit that's come from this, in addition to lending material solidarity to these local community projects, is the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that I've met throughout the way who said, you know, hey, by the way, I came to a day of action 3 years ago because, you know, this band that I really love told me to come out the next day. And since then, I've been involved with urban farming and food justice work the entire last 3 years. Or I turned the empty lot across from where I live into a medicinal garden, and we run a roadside free apothecary, or any countless number of examples like this. So I think that really what we're trying to push for is a decentralized transition to local bioregional food production, and beyond food production, also producing in a regenerative and just way for all of our needs, whether that be building materials, water, medicine, energy, etc. So I'll pause there and see if there's any like essential questions that people have. If not, I can talk a little bit about the direction we're going in now, which is to expand towards basically regenerative event design as a whole, as a way of starting to transition all kinds of events towards a more regenerative form of organizing themselves. Yeah.
Well, I just want to say before you get onto what you're working on next, I just want to, did everybody just fall in love with humanity again? Wasn't that beautiful?
Did I? I have the chills and
I'm missing the 70s.
Just hope and wonder and connection
and family.
Family empowerment. I mean, the children, as Carla's saying, the children look so happy.
Everybody looked happy.
They're learning, they're doing something useful, they're getting in touch with their indigenous roots or learning about indigenous roots. I mean, it's just really beautiful. Thank you to your team. Everybody in the team looked really just happy and confident and, like they're making a huge difference. So what a wonderful team you have. And doesn't everybody want a call to act, a day of action in their town?
That's what's going to be my question, Ryan. I was kind of looking on your website. You said you've done events in how many states? 26?
26, yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a map on your website where you've been? My question, I guess the biggest question is, have you done anything in Wisconsin?
I don't believe I think we did one action day in Wisconsin back in 2014, but it's been a while.
So what does it take if somebody wants you to come to their town and tag on to a conference, a concert or something? How do they get you there? How does that happen?
Yeah, so I'll answer quickly. There's a question in the chat. Yeah, we've done a lot of action days in Detroit, Michigan, so pretty close to Ann Arbor. And some of our people are also up in Soul Springs. But it sounds trite. I hate to say it. We've done, I think, a big part of what we were able to do for so long was organize these things on so little resources because we're able to network so many people. The number of skilled facilitators and musicians and in-kind donations of materials and tools and cooks and food and everything else that we were able to mobilize for years and years was really incredible with the amount of financial resources that we had. But we've been doing this since 2014. People have grown almost a decade since this started, and really there's a need for financial resources to be able to continue the work the way we were doing it. The artists are able to offer their microphone and their stages and platforms, but they're usually not able to actually fund this kind of work to happen. And after more than 100 of these days of action across the country, we've kind of hit our limit on how many people are willing to just volunteer for years and years and years, or get paid through like very small grants. So we know how to do this. We know how to teach other people to do it or organize them ourselves. Really, it's about finding the funding that we need to continue to be able to do this. Where I met you in Asheville, I was there to meet with Parangi, that musical artist who wants to do these days of action on their tour. There's lots of events and music artists that want to do this. It's really just about being able to turn financial resources into land and regenerative action. So yeah,
so when you go to a place, let's just say you got a couple thousand to get a busload of people pay, or maybe not a couple, I don't know how much you need, but let's just say you had a busload of volunteers, like your team, that could go to, say, Michigan, wherever, Wisconsin, where are you, Ann? What city are you in? Milwaukee. Okay, that's right. Yeah, she's got a fabulous garden. She's turned it. Anyway, let's just say you were able to go to Milwaukee with a busload of people. You got funding for that. You would have to predetermine where a community garden would be that you would be installing or revamping, right? So you would need a local contact that would be like, here is a local, church garden or school garden or whatever that needs revamping. You would have to have a local contact that would identify that, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we're really well networked throughout the country, where we did a long multi-year process of mapping out all of what we call like just transition projects, which means that we focus not only on those projects that are creating ecological restoration, but also projects that we see as doing that while centering the liberation of dispossessed and displaced people. So we primarily focus on working with community centers and community spaces that are accessible and offer education, especially those that are empowering poor folks, indigenous folks, Black folks, people of color that are organizing themselves towards their own liberation. So we're well networked when it comes to the sites that we want to support and that are asking for this kind of help. I mean, basically, people that are able to connect us to folks in the community that are able to contribute resources is extremely supportive, meaning not just money, like people that are willing to transport things, donate tools and materials, bring food, offer sound systems, offer equipment. Like that's kind of the mainstay of what we do, is networking all of this mutual aid based support into one of these days of action. So that's really helpful. People that know their communities well and know how to mobilize all of these different resources and offers of voluntary action and support, extremely helpful towards our process. And at the end of the day, like transportation, travel, food, equipment, paying organizers some basic stipends, that all costs money. So it's a combination of the two.
Yeah.
And like this is possible for people to mimic themselves. You know, if you want to organize these things in your community, we're happy to share and support you in like learning how to go about this locally, even if it's, you know, the town fair or whatever.
A town fair, right? Things like that. Yeah. Well, what I love is that you're doing something that you're tying in with a current event, which is what Moms Across America did. We joined into 4th of July parades.
Right.
So it was an existing event. It was already structured. It was already planned. There were already thousands of people there. Do you know what I mean? So we just joined it. So you're joining into a local basically, you know, tagging on to a local concert, which makes a lot of sense. And people are happy and they're feeling good, and they want to see each other again. Probably they might have met new people at this concert, and then they can get together again. So you're really creating a sense of community and support. And I just think it's fantastic. I'm really happy that you're doing this. I'd love to see you get as much funding as you need to be able to continue to do this and to have it replicated across the country. And I hope you have proposals and like plans written up for what you need, because, you know, I'm sure somebody on this call or somebody that's seeing it on Facebook or somebody that we all know, you know, I mean, there are a lot of billionaires now that want to see the earth repaired and that want to see people being healthy. I mean, it doesn't matter how much money you have. If your child has autism or you are sick and you have IBS or Crohn's disease, you know, there's something you can do about it, but in many cases it's, you know, still very, very, very difficult, even if you have a ton of money. So a lot of people who have a ton of money want to support the system, the whole overall system, to transform so that they and people without a lot of money don't have to be so sick and so debilitated by the toxins in the system. And that's what we're going after. So you know, so let's just create that you have plenty of funding to be able to do this all across the country, and our Moms Across America supporters can request you. Would they go to your website then and send you an email?
Yeah, that's fine. I'll share. I mean, the best way to get in touch with me, I'll put in the chat, but you can just email ryan@ecosocialaction.org.
Okay.
You know, I'm also on Instagram at like Ryan, putting it in the chat right now, but Ryan_rising. People are free to reach out, or, you know, if people are in touch with you and you want to put someone in touch directly by text or anything like that, it's totally welcome. And yeah, I mean, the other huge thing that we're seeing right now is lots and lots of what I would call, you know, trust-based groups, affinity groups of young people who are trying to start regenerative community projects where they're taking ecological restoration and an ecological form of production of the basic provisions that we need for our lives into their own hands. And I think the most important thing that folks that own resources can do to support this is to transfer directly land and material resources to those people who have a plan and have a way of working together and being accountable and have built trust. The number of young people who want to start regenerative farms and community spaces and community production in an ecological way, it's growing, you know, every single day. And so kind of transitioning from this nonprofit industrial complex of funding organizations that pay salaries, which is important, and we've been doing it ourselves for a long time, but starting to transition towards the direct transition of land and resources to trust-based groups of people who are trying to start these kinds of ecologically regenerative community spaces, I think is a really essential way that we're going to see this transition to a more just and regenerative.
So you say you're building a land trust, or you're connecting with land trusts that are doing this?
I think what we're trying to do is connect people with wealth and resources with the groups who are directly doing this themselves, whether they're organizing into a land trust or organizing into a cooperative or a different legal structure. There's numerous ways to go about the social and economic organization of these kinds of projects. But what we're trying to do really is transition land and the material resources to get started to these kinds of groups who are actually committed to decades of regenerative production of food, medicine, building materials, water, and all the other things that communities need to live, and transition away from the extractive industrial economy and towards a place-based, bioregional, and regenerative form of economy.
I would say that would be a natural progression, because when you have a call to action day and you've got maybe some elderly people who show up and see all these beautiful young people working together and making something happen very quickly, and they've got 60 acres where they're not doing anything with it because they just don't have the capacity to do anything with that anymore. And you've got all these young people that want to start a farm. I think it seems like to me that would be a natural match. That's a really brilliant idea. Yeah. Are you familiar with Iroquois Valley Farm?
I was just going to ask that.
Not.
Okay, they're a land trust. I'll connect you. Real estate investment, not real estate. What do they call REI?
Oh, please share.
Yeah, they're in Evanston, outside Chicago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
What?
you can investors can put money in so that young farmers can get land. So I forgot what you call that. But I'll connect you with them for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it sounds and anybody else have any other questions for Ryan? Yes, Carla. You have to unmute.
I don't know why it's not. Oh,
Go.
peace. Thank you. Hi, Ryan. I was just wondering, have you ever reached out to Children's Health Defense? Because I know they probably would love to see something like this.
No, I'm not aware of them yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they have a huge network. Also, the High Wire, I'm connected with them. They have a huge network of people. And I think we could coordinate some real estate investment trust. Thank you. REIT, REIT. Yeah, Iroquois Valley Farm. So it's in the chat if you want to get that. But
Right.
yeah, so they have huge networks, and they also have funders that support regenerative organic farming. And I think if you put together a proposal for what you need for various events across the country with paying staff, and all of that, and just getting what you need, that, I really believe is ask and you shall receive.
Totally.
Really. You just do it with your full heart, with good intention. When you do what you love, all the world conspires with you, and it happens, and so, yeah, well, thank you very much for being on. Is there anything else you want to share about how people could maybe, like maybe if they can't have a day of action with you coming to them right now, what would you suggest people do right now to live a more permaculture life?
I think it can start as close to home as one's own, community park or backyard or whatever it might be. But also, I think really important right now is supporting the young folks who are both trying to stop the harm that's being done through, ecological defense and direct action movements, as well as trying to create viable alternatives and create these projects, because it's just humongous, the energy that's behind this kind of shift right now. So yeah, just staying in touch with each other, networking, and trying to support all of this uprising energy that's happening towards creating a better world. And yeah, I'm super happy to be here. Thanks all.
Yeah, that's why we created the Neighborhood Food Network, and basically it's start growing food in your own backyard. And I had a woman in my street said she wasn't physically capable, but she would be more than willing, because I have a 200-foot deep backyard, and everybody on my side of the street does as well. And she said, well, I can't do it, but I will be more than willing to give my yard to somebody else who can.
Totally. It's perfect. Yeah, that's the kind of transitionary economy that we need.
Yeah,
Well,
and she grows way too many tomato plants. So then she walks around her neighborhood with a cart, and she sells tomato plants for like $2 or $3 instead of $5.
Oh no, in my neighborhood, I just give them away. But yeah, I sell them for $2 a piece, and I sold $600 worth this last spring. So it helps pay for all the soil and pots and everything that I buy. And people, I meet some of the best people, and I always have my Neighborhood Food Network cards, and come join us. And yeah, it's kind of fun to meet. It's more fun to meet all the people, and I've formed a few friendships from it. So
Awesome.
Yeah. And, you know, and the food brings people together from all races, all ages. Anne is probably the only white person in her neighborhood, and she knows everybody now. And yeah,
Call me the crazy white lady.
and the kids
Good
are
title.
learning how to grow food. They come in our backyard. Sometimes they sneak some apples, but you know, they're getting fresh food. So she's crossing, you know, bridges and connecting people.
I had one little boy who was 6 years old. He came over to my garden when I was installing it, and I was spreading all the wood chips, and he came over with a broom, and I said, "What are you going to do?" And he said, "I want to help." So anyway, so later on in the summer, he came over again, and they had some of the older girls with him, and we were picking cherry tomatoes, and I handed him one, and he looked at it. He goes, "What is this?" And I just broke my heart.
Oh,
He bit. No, he didn't know what a tomato was. So he bit into it and then spit it out. I said, "You try?" All the other girls were like, "Oh my God, these are so good." And I said, "Well, you tried. Maybe you can try again." And so
it is a different kind of taste. If you've never had a tomato before, it is different. And when you're little, your taste buds are very different from when you're older. But wow, you gave him his first bite of tomato. Oh my gosh, it's kind of heartbreaking, but also good. Well, okay. Well, thank you everybody for being on the call. Ryan, thanks for taking time out, and let's be in touch and talk further about some connections that we need to make with you. Okay.
Wonderful. Good to meet you all.
yeah, and I'll be
Thank you very
sending
much.
out the links to everybody, and I'll send you a copy of the email, Ryan, so you can have everything.
Thank you very much, everybody. We will see you next week. I don't know who our guests are next week, but join us on the Moms Connect call. And you're shaking your head, Anne. Are we not having a call next week?
No, I don't.
Oh, December 4th. I know who's coming on. Kelly Ryerson, glyphosate girl, glyphosate facts. She is going to give us a lowdown on lawsuit issues, and also glyphosate laws passing in Europe, and all kinds of glyphosate stuff that's happening. And we'll probably have another guest too. But thank you so much for being with us. It's wonderful to see you all. Thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us. Good night.